This is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you this is bigger than you think. Welcome in. We are live here on this Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for making A to Z part of your daily sports listen. Lot to get to today. Kevin Knight of the Falcoholic will join us to recap the draft. And of course, the big news of the day about Grady Jarrett. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment. Plus, some Braves grades after 1 month and a game last night against the New York Mets that they win. Whoa, maybe we'll let some of the panic down. We'll do all that before the end of the show today. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Twitter at LockedOnATL. I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Make sure you keep up with the shows, all the great shows we have here on the Locked On Network, and certainly love to hear from you guys about Locked On Atlanta and what you guys love and everything else. All right, let's get into it today. Because the big news is, it's funny because I wanted to talk about something else completely different today, but then the news of Grady Jarrett broke this morning, and I kind of just had to run with it. As Grady looks like, and Ian Rappaport reports that he has an extension, a 3-year extension totaling $51 million. That's around $17 million a year average annual value. We don't know exactly how it works out. And it is interesting because I asked Ian, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I did ask him whether it was a complete 3 new years or it's technically a 2-year extension and they just reworked the deal this year. They are going to get cap relief against the salary cap this year. That's according to Ian Rappaport, and I assume that's the reason that they did it. They still needed more money to sign all of their draft picks and would love to have a little more flexibility to grab some of the names that are still out there on the street to help build up this roster. Now, that said, I'm not 100% sure whether it's 3 new years or it's just an extension of 2 years on top of this one, and the 3 years total now is $51 million. Does it matter? Yes and no. It doesn't, but it does. We'll get to that in a minute. On the grand scale, getting Grady Jarrett to take any extension here, 2 or 3 years, is really big. And if you don't think it's really big, think about this for a second. And the people that I talked to who are close to Grady, had explained to me that Grady was really struggling with wanting to stay in Atlanta for non-football reasons. Obviously, he's from Georgia. His mother lives here. His foundation is charity here. He loves the city. He loves the state of Georgia and wants to be here. He's weighing all of that versus, do I want to play for a crap team that isn't going to win a lot of games, right? I mean, generally, all these football players want to win games. A lot of them on a routine basis. They all want to win titles. Remember Desmond Ridder got into it. I'm not even talking to Super Bowl. Crazy kids, crazy. But that said, Grady was really torn because he could have gone a variety of places and put himself in a position to win a championship. Think he deserves it. He's one of the top 5 defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen in the NFL. After Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, maybe Danielle Hunter, and a couple others, Grady's right there. There's no doubt about that. He had a down year last year, but he is certainly a top 5 interior defensive lineman in the NFL. And so the Falcons could have moved on from him and sort of given him a wish and said, hey, go enjoy the rest of your career somewhere else. Somebody else is going to pay you a whole ton of money because you're really, really good. I think it speaks to a couple of things. One, clearly the lines of communication between Grady, his camp, and the Falcons was very much open and continued to be open. That's a good thing for this regime. That's a good thing for other players in the locker room and other players around the NFL, particularly high-level star players that are of Grady Jarrett's caliber at their respective positions. It's good for them to hear, hey, Fontenot's a good dude. They were straight up with me the whole time. The organization was legit. They handled themselves the right way. My agent had no problems. My business manager had no problems. We got everything we wanted in the deal. I was happy. Those are sort of things that reverb from, and again, Grady's got a big agent who has multiple other NFL players as agents, or as representatives, rather, as clients. And he will be able to echo the ease of which with you can work with the Falcons front office to get deals done. That helps. If there are real pains in the butt and there are real screws and they make things difficult, agents are going to tell their players, hey, this isn't going to be easy, man. We're going to work for it. We're going to try to get you as much as we can, but I'm just telling you, I've worked with these guys before. They're not easy to work with. Doesn't give the athlete the warm and fuzzy. So I think it's big that he did that. I think it's huge that he chose to stay. And even if the reasons weren't purely football, you know what he's willing to say? I'm here to be part of something bigger than just winning football games. And that means a lot to people within an organization. That means a lot to everybody who puts on that jersey, that he wants to stay. It's easy to go someplace else and try and win. That's the easy thing. What's up, Matt Stafford? That's the easy thing to do. Sticking around and fighting through a rebuild, that stuff is hard. And not many professional athletes in today's day and age are willing to sit around and do that. This is big on a lot of levels for the Falcons. I think the other thing it says, and maybe, I don't know, but I'm speculating. What I told you more than anything was that I wanted the Falcons to get a first-round pick for Grady Jarrett. Now, they could have shopped this thing around and not found any suitors. I don't know. I haven't heard one way or another how much they were shopping to see what they could get for Grady. But based off the contract that he signed and the value that he's getting paid, either the Falcons have overpaid him or that's his market value. And I would tend to think it's the latter. And if his market value is that, then he nets a first-round pick, and the Falcons chose him over a future commodity. It's big. Like, all of this resonates to a lot of big signals that are positive signs at the beginning of a rebuild. I can't guarantee the deal's going to work out. I can't guarantee a year from now Grady's not going to scream, trade me, trade me, trade me, I want out. There are no guarantees to any of that. But as we sit here on May 3rd, and we are going over the facts as we know them, this is big, and it helps out the organization a ton. They needed this. Again, moving on from him was easy. Getting a draft pick in return was easy. Convincing him to stay was difficult. Him choosing to stay was difficult. All those things are big deals for a team that's in a full-on rebuild. You don't get athletes to stay in your town and in your organization when you stink for 20 years, like the Browns, like the Bengals did until recent. So the Falcons have had very up and down success over the last 15 years. It's been good, a couple of bad years. Been good, a couple of bad years. Now we're in the really bad years. Getting someone to stay is a huge, huge deal, especially someone of this caliber. I think we can't underscore how much this contract means. And if they get cap relief here, which they will, and at least the number that I was reading early on was around $12.8 million, more than enough to sign your draft class and add some decent quality free agents left. Maybe there is Odell Beckham Jr. that they could add after his knee rehabs later on in the year. Maybe there is another defensive player that they could add, whether it's who's the guy from Chicago? Why is my name blanking right now? I'll have to look it up. So if you remember me, tweet me. It's going to come to me in a second. I don't want to waste time doing it. But anyway, there are a bunch of other free agents out there, older free agents out there that would be looking for one-year deals that you could bring in here in the short term and let him play and try to be competitive and get another contract. So there's a bunch of other defensive guys out there and offensive guys out there that this team could still add, which gives you a little bit of hope that maybe they'll be a little bit more competitive than you think. Now, being more competitive than you think leads to a whole bunch of other questions about the future, but we're not going to bring those up today. It's a good day. Congrats to Grady Jarrett. Congrats to Terry Fontenot and the Atlanta Falcons for retaining one of their best. Coming up next, Kevin Knight of the Falcoholic, great on their draft coverage. We'll ask him about Grady and what the Falcons did in the draft and how useful will some of these guys be. That is coming up next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you search Locked On Sports Atlanta.